Well, today, Japan's minister in charge of coronavirus measures reportedly proposed limiting capacity at major events to 10,000 spectators. Currently, large venues in Tokyo are only allowed up to 5,000 people, or half their capacity, as part of Japan's pandemic restrictions. Well, this news comes just a day after the International Olympic Committee released an updated playbook, that's what they're calling it, which details rules for COVID testing and other pandemic protocols special for the games. And included in the new policies, a warning that athletes could be disqualified for breaking the IOC's COVID guidelines. And here now to break this all down for us is NewsNation's Ryan Burrow, host of the Quest for Gold podcast. Thank you, sir, for coming back.
Thanks.
I appreciate this. Before we get into some of the nitty gritty, the fact that now there's all this talk, should they have them, should they not, and all that, the fact that there now is a very thorough handbook out there, protocol book out there, playbook, what's the bigger message of that being released?
Yeah, there are a couple things going on. The fact that they are expanding the number of athletes that can be at these games, or the number of fans, rather, that can be at these games, and the fact that they are giving these 70-page playbooks to the athletes indicates we're moving forward with this. You know, there could be a lot of pushback from Japan, there could be pushback from other countries, but the fact of the matter is we are moving full steam ahead with this, and here's the proof of it. Here are the 70 pages. Here we're detailing exactly how people are arriving in Japan, how they're leaving Japan, what they're doing when they're there. And we're talking athletes, we're talking journalists, we're talking fans. So they're putting everything in place to show the world we're ready to go.
So proof that despite all the cancellation talk, we're doing this, but also, hey, we're taking COVID seriously. We're trying to keep everybody safe because obviously hundreds of thousands of people expected to show up. So let's talk about the rules for the athletes. They're the stars of the show. What stood out to you?
So in here, first of all, athletes must wear masks unless they're eating, sleeping, training, or competing. So if they're walking around, if they're milling around, as soon as they land in Tokyo or wherever they're going to be participating in these games, they have to be wearing masks, regardless of whether they've got the vaccine or not. They have to avoid group interaction. So all of these cool selfies that they like to take during the opening ceremonies and closing ceremonies, trying to rub elbows with Simone Biles or whatever, that's probably not going to happen this time around. They're going to try to avoid those kind of interactions. No hugs, no handshakes, which athletes have been dealing with for the last year or so, but it's going to be a little interesting seeing that on the international stage.
Because I was reading some of the rules here. Don't stop at any airport shops, no public transport, don't go to tourist areas, shops or restaurants. Sounds fun. Sounds like a, but obviously they're doing it for good reasons, which we just talked about before we came on the air, a rule involving children, which is kind of sad to think about, but again, we get it because of the times we're in.
Yeah, they're really trying to stop these interactions as much as possible. Unfortunately, part of that is no foreign fans at these games. That means that families cannot attend, and it hurts a lot of these athletes because their families have been so involved in their lives leading up to this point. They finally made the games, and when they look up in the stands, they won't see those faces. But you've got some situations where some of these athletes, Serena Williams being one, Allison Felix being another, young children, and this will be the first time that they'll have to be separated from these toddlers for 2 weeks at a time, 2 weeks plus.
And that's tough. I mean, it's, you want to be able to share that kind of moment as an athlete, and you can't. So here's the real question. Let's say Serena says, you know what, I'm going to that restaurant, or I'm going to take this selfie because this girl in the stands really want it, or whatever. Do you think they really would disqualify people for even a minor COVID-related infraction?
They want people to take this seriously. And so basically they've set up the first time that you're out of bounds, the first time you're not in your activities plan, which each of these athletes has, where they're allowed to go, when they're allowed to go. If they're breaking that, they get a warning. Then after that, they could be disqualified. If there's a second, they could even be fined if there is a third violation here. So, and it's not just for the athletes. Get this, the journalists have their own activities plan as well, where they can travel, when they can travel, and they're actually being tracked by their cell phones.
Wow.
So they know if you've been, maybe partying hard somewhere where you're not supposed to be.
Everyone loves the press. No, thank you, Ryan. That's really fascinating detail, and more to come. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it.